Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. My name is Shiro, and I will be your host today. And today I'm really excited to be talking about something I think that's hot for the whole world, but also starting to get a little hot for the higher ed industry as well. And we'll be covering AI tools in higher ed marketing, on how to add them to workflows, concerns, suggestions, and much more. And for that, today we have our guest speaker, Kyle Campbell, founder of Education Marketer. Amazing guest. We've had him on the show already before on a previous episode. So welcome back, Kyle.
Thanks for having me back. It's always a good sign if someone asks you back on a podcast and actually follows through on the promise. So thank you very much. It's good to be back. It's one of my favorite shows.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That means a lot to me to hear that. And, today we're going to be talking a little bit more, conversationally around AI tools and how we can make an impact, or how higher ed teams can really be utilizing these tools. And, I'd love for us to kind of just, get into it. I think as a premise, lots of higher ed teams are really strapped for resources, right? They're limited in resources, whether that's headcount, funds, positions that are open, but just they can't fill them, right? There's a huge need for it right now. And, there's a lot of potential opportunity with AI tools helping to reduce time, make teams more efficient so that you can get work done and having to do less, repetitious work, or work that is grinding, right? And so I think there's a lot of opportunity, and it's a great conversation for higher ed marketing as a whole. And so I wanted to kind of start there. And, where are you seeing AI tools really being useful in higher education, Kyle?
At the moment, a few clients I'm working with are exploring ways, like you just said, like getting greater efficiencies out of the projects they're working on. And some of these are a wider ranging projects. Some of them are a bit more simple and focused. So on the simpler end of the spectrum, one of the most common things I'm seeing is university marketing teams using these tools on existing content on their website. Some of those high traffic pages in the UK, and I imagine it's probably similar for you too, are program pages that outline what the product is, right? And we all know that those pages sometimes suffer from being very academic in their tone, right, and not necessarily written for a younger audience, a late teen audience who are prime customers. So it's just a case of taking that existing content and giving it to something like Chat GPT-4 and saying, I like this content, it's truthful, it works, but we need it to be focused towards this audience that we're targeting. And bang, within about 10 seconds, you've got your first draft, right? And
right.
In the past, you'd normally have to engage your team, brief them, or, go for a freelancer, get a copywriter in. Now, I'm not saying you still don't need copywriters. This is a skill set that's very valuable. But if you're strapped for resources and you just don't have them available at that time, it's a really viable option for you to just make those quick edits and adjust your content so it's suitable for the right audience.
I love that. Yeah. And just taking one step back, I think if you're really beginning your AI tool journey, and maybe we can focus around Chat GPT just because that's obviously the tool that's gotten the most recognition, is, what I believe it really helps, if you're starting out in your AI journey, is where can AI help with copywriting? Like you just mentioned, a great example of taking the program pages, which are sometimes maybe too long in text and too academic, and changing the tone, maybe shortening the length so it's more digestible to your ideal customer profile, or the teens, right? And the students in the teens. So that's copywriting help. One area I think, also it can really help with is content ideation, just to sort of get the wheels turning. Because I think as a marketer and as a creative, sometimes like you clean your whole room and then you sit down on your laptop, you make a smoothie and brew your coffee, and like you need to get in this mindset, and cleaning your room, brewing the coffee, making breakfast, that's 2 hours right there, right? Be like, okay, now I'm ready.
Gone,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes that's what it takes, right? And maybe like just to start to spin the wheel of content ideation, I feel like that's a really strong tool. So now you can skip the cleaning your room and the coffee, and you can
Yeah.
be like, hey, like what are some ideas that are top of mind right now? And maybe what it spits out and outputs is not good, but you can use that as leverage to keep the ball rolling. So content ideation is also a strong area I think it can help with, and also research as well, right? I know there's a lot of data to back that you should not trust data from GPT, and I've seen that single-handedly. Like
Yeah.
I've searched titles and they've associated with the wrong institution, like quite frankly, completely incorrect. But also just to like figure out what kind of research is out there, just to use it as some as very very draft zero, maybe draft minus, just to set the tone of where you're starting. But those are
Yeah.
kind of three areas I think that are really good to start out with if you're starting your AI tool journey. Do you have anything to add to that? Like any also areas that you're seeing it utilized?
Yeah, I mean, and definitely on that first draft ideation scope, a major unlock for me when using it for that sort of tool was understanding that it wasn't just a case of doing one prompt, but actually having a conversation with it. And I think the best way to look at it is, when you go to an agency and you give them a brief, well, if you gave that agency a one-line brief, quite naturally, the result you're going to get back is either a terrible result that doesn't match what you want, or they're going to come back and go, can you give us a bit more detail, please? And I think it's the same principle with this tool. And when I'm using it, I often think about it as like like an actor on a stage, right? And you're the director in the wings, and this actor is very skilled. They have all this knowledge about how to perform and do all these amazing parts, but they need to know what part they're playing. So one of the first instructions is you've got to tell it what it needs to act like. Do you want it to act like a marketing consultant? Do you want it to act like an academic? You've got to give it these different tools, these different levels of prompts. And then it's a back and forth conversation as you shape that output, whether that's a piece of content or a plan for a workshop. Maybe you're analyzing some data, whatever it is. It's never going to be your one-line prompt and done. It's going to be a series of conversations and chats in a thread, and you'll get to your result eventually. So yeah, that really helped me thinking about it, because you see a lot of posts on LinkedIn where people have taken a screenshot of Chat GPT, and there's like one line and then there's the result, and the post usually goes saying, oh, this isn't very good, this is a terrible output. Of course it is. You're not using it right. You've got to treat it like a partner.
Amazing. Yeah, that makes total sense. So maybe like if you are a VP of communications and you tell your content writer in the past, like, hey, like Marissa, can you go write about moving week for me? The 2023 fall moving week. Like if that's your prompt that you're giving to your employee, like she's going to be like, well, what do you want me to talk about? Like what student body, who's the audience? And so you have to really frame it like, just like you're giving a task to anyone on your team, you have to really treat ChatGPT like that. That's what I'm hearing you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. And you think of all the complicated work that PR teams and unis had to do when a new piece of research drops. And I imagine so many people have this brief, like they've got this amazing piece of research and then they're asked to write about it for an audience of the public. That's an incredibly challenging role, but now you can take something like that, a briefing paper with all this detailed like academic information on it, and then ask ChatGPT to simplify it for you. So then you can be creative in your storytelling and still use all those skills that you were hired for, but you can cut out that awful part of your job that involves translating what something actually means with a subject area expert. I mean, I'm not a journalist, but I imagine if that's the sort of thing that you're working on in university, oh my, I mean, if I could shelve that part of the process, I probably would, so I could be more creative.
Love it. That's amazing. And I was just thinking back to, I love what you opened up with, but taking the program and digesting it into smaller pieces, bite-sized pieces, and for different audiences. Like I remember when I was a student, understanding programs was so difficult because of the language. I mean, I'm an 18-year-old coming in, trying to learn, like I'm not really used to academic language yet. And that was very difficult to understand. And now I'm thinking like you can even use ChatGPT to prompt and create maybe like short scripts for like videos that your social media team can be using. Like, hey, like, can you in 3 sentences break down this business program or something? And you can take those 3 lines, create a script around like a TikTok video or an Instagram video to advertise to students about different program offerings your school has. Like that's like I feel like a great idea. Like even simplify your idea more.
Yeah, and again, it taps into that idea of speed and scale, doesn't it? Because think how long that would normally take you to break down. There's a brilliant app, and it's built on the same sort of technologies as Chat GPT, but it's called supercreator.ai, and it essentially does just that. It turns you into a super creator by 10x in the work you're able to produce. So it's a mobile app. You type in the topic you want to create something about, like a video, and it then generates 10 different scripts based off this one topic you've put in, or if it's a URL of a web page, you can start off this process in many different ways, and it will create the script, it will create the video backgrounds, it will give you effects and stickers for your video, and it does it all in this one mobile window. So you can have like a real basic input, but then you have that content for an entire series on this one idea if you wanted to. And again, it's a first draft. You need to edit and play around with it because you are the creator, but it just increases your workflow like an incredible degree. It's almost like we've unlocked these superhuman abilities that we didn't know we needed.
Right.
Where was all this stuff like 2 years ago?
What was that one just called? That I've never heard of that application.
Supercreator.ai. And the great thing about it is hardly anyone knows about it. Like the company dropped a video on YouTube, and it might be different now, but when I watched it a couple of weeks ago, it only had like 3,000 views. Because there's so many things dropping, right? We can't keep up. But yeah, there's all kinds of little gems that if you get in first, you can suddenly, get in front of your competition, and they don't even know what's going on. But you've got these AI tools supporting you. It's a very interesting time to be in marketing.
I love it. Yeah, and I think I actually joined another call with Higher Ed Web. Shout out to Higher Ed Web, great Higher Ed Web organization. I joined a webinar, and kind of along the lines of taking that program page and dumbing it down, or not dumbing it down. Sorry, that's the wrong word. But simplifying the language and making sure that the language is targeted to our audience. A good thing that they talked about is, it's ChatGPT is really strong for taking good sourced long form content. So, academic long written content is usually a good source of information and it's well written. They found that ChatGPT is very, very strong at simplifying and shortening long form content that has a really good base. And you can use that to create email copy. So maybe you want to do an email campaign to let students know of a new class that's become available in their program, or a new offering. You can prompt ChatGPT to be like, hey, can you create a 300 character email about this program? Great use case example. Another one that I thought was really interesting was you can take that same program page, and it's probably similar to what you were saying, is hey, can you use the program language to create a 1,000-word landing page with call to actions to sign up for the program, and it'll help you spit out a very base of a landing page, so you have something to work off of, a blueprint to work off of. I thought that was really cool as well. And then obviously we went over the social copy thing, but you can just take one strong piece of long form content, break it down into social, email, landing pages, call to actions, and so much more. And I thought that was really amazing. Something that, again, going back to the business perspective, you're saving so much time.
Yeah, and I see these various features all being brought together into Chat GPT now. So I don't know if you saw it recently, but the founder of OpenAI, the creators of Chat GPT, he did his TED talk, as you know, I think he deserves it, right? And he was showing some of these features coming down the track for Chat GPT, the app itself. And essentially, the OpenAI is rolling out plugins that support functionality within the Chat GPT application. And he demoed it by asking Chat GPT to create a suggestion for a post-TED meal. So what food you're going to eat post this talk. It then generated an image within the same window. It then created a digital shopping list so you could buy the ingredients in Chat GPT at a touch of a button. And then he posted everything together that he just created in a single Twitter post that linked through to a web page. We used to do that for 7 apps in different screens and chopping and changing everything. But he's done it live on a TED stage, probably within about 5 minutes of a live demo. And, you know, I look at this and think of all those operations we talked about there about creating landing pages. Well, it doesn't take much of a stretch of imagination that maybe there's a plugin to develop like website designs within ChatGPT, and I believe there already are that it can create web pages from sketches and drawings. That might not be ChatGPT or a plugin, but I've definitely seen this demoed in some sort of AI interface. So we're not that far away from your example of literally not just doing the copy and the content and CTAs, but actually creating the page all through a chatbot interface. I don't think we realize how amazing that is. It's quite a step change. We had mobile early sort of 2000s, and with the dawn of the iPhone and how that changed the interface. And I think we're moving to that next interface change now, which is essentially going to be a text box that we type what we want into it, and then it magically creates it for us. How amazing is that?
That's amazing. Yeah, and I'm just thinking when higher ed, taking the example of the TED Talk, like maybe after orientation week, you want to send T-shirts and mugs to all the parents, right? And send a calendar. And maybe there's a way to use a chat-generated prompt engine to add that to a workflow that you've already created that's maybe integrated with the system so that you don't have to manually create all these things anymore. That probably took a lot of time, right? Imagine like having to set that workflow up. Okay, after all these students who showed up, send their parents T-shirt, mug, calendar. You might be able to just prompt that on the fly.
Yeah. And when you think that through, like your marketing team looks very different to how it does now. And I've been involved in when I used to work for universities, actually as an employee. I remember these campaigns and all the different people you had to talk to get this sort of stuff done. And you always will do, to an extent, have people representing certain areas, but you look at a technology like this and it's not far off being able to automate a lot of that process. And really, don't we all become managers then? We're just managing our AI assistants to do these things for us. You're the creative person. You have all these things at your disposal. It's how you use them. But I think we're moving into a new era.
I love it. Yeah, it's so fun to talk about and also a little scary. But I think as marketers, I think that's just the next thing, is the next learning curve is learning how to utilize these tools. And I think for higher ed, again, I just know you're expected to do so much more with less now. And this is almost a sign of relief. Obviously, there's going to be a period of learning how to use the tools and for them to become sticky. But I think it'll help alleviate some of the tasks that were repetitious, time consuming, that you didn't enjoy in the past. And I think that'll be actually a net positive for marketers in general.
I agree. And I think every technological innovation we've had in the past, like you have an initial sort of terrified workforce that they're going to be replaced, but then because there's new technology, all these new opportunities are created around it. Look at the creation of like the car, for instance, right? You get rid of horses, but then you need garages, roads, all of this infrastructure, don't you? And that's another avenue of employment, different skills required. It's just the same with technological infrastructure. We're going to have a very different workforce appear over the next 5 years. There'll be a lot of
Yep.
money in prompt engineers, that's for sure.
Love it. And again, going back to my conversation that I listened into, I think it was yesterday, around how you can also use ChatGPT not just for breaking down that long form content, but you can also use it for keyword research. I think Brian Piper, shout out Brian Piper, he mentioned that you can use ChatGPT for SEO optimization and SEO research. So you can easily find out good keywords to use. You can relay those words back in tools like SEMrush to find out search volume based on the keyword. And then once you know which key terms you want to use based on volume and that are going to be relevant to your topic, you can prompt ChatGPT to say like, hey, can you write a 600-word blog post on this topic? Making sure you have the proper prompts, right? Making sure it's very detailed. You have the audience, the voice all captured. And then you can say, hey, can you please use this H1 keyword or this keyword in the H1, and then please sprinkle these 4 keywords into the copy. And that can help kind of alleviate some of that SEO implementation that you've been having to do as a writer as well. That was a great example that I really loved.
It makes you think what's going to happen to SEO, because there used to be the barrier that you had to create the content and do all that research in SEMrush and or whatever platform you're using. But if you can create, say, several pieces of content built around a pillar and a cluster model that we deployed in SEO for quite some time to good success, how does Google respond to that when suddenly everyone can create content at scale? And obviously the quality of the content matters, and I'm sure that the content that has that more creative element in it will probably do better. And then there's the risk that Google might penalize AI generated content. But in the past, the barrier has been able to have an SEO team to create this stuff. Well, now you don't necessarily need that to quite the same degree that you needed in the past. So lots of opportunities. And I really do wonder what that SEO community must be thinking privately. Positively, they all sound very positive and really happy about this technology, but it's a huge shock to that community and how these tools are being used, especially with, I think we mentioned beforehand, didn't we, with actual AI in search, and how potentially if you have an AI generating 100% personalized content in the search engine results page before the click happens, like what happens to web traffic? It goes down, right? So big impact coming there. Lots for unis to be thinking about.
I'm happy to kind of move on more around like the rules and concerns topic here, starting with yours. And I think if I understand you right, Kyle, it's that I'll give a very specific example so you can understand. If you're a student and traditionally you searched, okay, I'm a student who loves rowing, so I want to join a rowing club. I want to go to a school in the Midwest. Where do I go to, right? And they'll maybe come up with a series of short prompts that they would have searched in Google search. And then, maybe a school in that region would pop up as a result, and they would start their research there. Or maybe they'd use niche.com to figure out, what school would be good for them. Maybe it'll take a little more research because they'd have to go to the website and figure out the rowing club situation, right? But now you're saying a student who's armed with ChatGPT will go in there and create a long prompt of exactly what they need, and then ChatGPT will spit back out the school. And so on the institutional perspective, how do I optimize so that I show up in the prompt? That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, with Google, you get a series of results, but with an AI assisted search, you literally get the answer put in front of you. And, like you said, you could make that prompt, that request for information as long and as detailed as you want, and you'll get back the exact response that you were looking for. You don't need to wade through content, skim content, and find what's relevant to you. It's literally there. And in terms of defending against that, if that's the right word to use, I don't think we need to change SEO strategy. I still think it's good to have helpful content on the web, so don't get rid of it for God's sake. But I think it does mean we need to look at protecting ourselves in case search as an organic acquisition channel isn't as fruitful as it has been in the past. And for me, in the universities I work with, we were looking at how we can work with academic thought leaders, how we can help the university be known for certain topics off the back of certain content marketing programs, building email lists, building content marketing properties, podcasts, subscription programs as another means of getting people acquired through different channels and helping them build trust with us over time, so they're more likely to convert when we ask the question or give them the opportunity, right? And at the moment, we do heavily rely on search as a way people find us and make a decision. But that, for me, over the next 5 years, looks a little bit more risky than it has done in the past. Because in the past, we've had the knowledge of what goes into good search engine optimized content, and anything we can't optimize we just pay for, but we don't know what those models are gonna look like. So I think it's fine to keep doing search optimization, makes sense, but you really do need to look at content marketing and even create a partnerships, whatever it is. But we need to diversify from what we've been doing, because right now we're heavily indexed towards search acquisition.
Right. Yeah, and that's like either paid or organic, right? You were mentioning schools rely on what, like 30, what were the numbers exactly again on organic search?
It ranges, but yeah, typically the lowest end of that spectrum is like 35% acquisition via that channel, which is high. Highest organic, I've seen, right? Yeah, organic. The highest I've seen, it goes up to like 65, but it could be higher, it could be lower. This is based on personal experience, but as an acquisition channel, search is the dominant way that people are acquired.
Yeah, so you can, it's potential. We're just theorizing here, but there's a potential that in the future, maybe 5-10 years now, when students and anyone related to higher ed, they might not be using Google search prompt, and so that channel just could slow down or become a little bit smaller and smaller part of your website journey.
I think slowdown's right. And the other thing we probably need to consider is how that changes the role of a website. So at the moment, if people are discovering you primarily through that channel, your website has to help them learn about you, okay? But if they start to learn about what you are via other channels, whether that's AI generative search or social media as a discovery channel, it sort of changes the role of what the website is. Maybe the website's a place they go to convert for whatever events you've got or something like that as the key conversion metric, whatever you're measuring. But yeah, I think the idea of the web as a storytelling place might be diminished slightly. It's a very complicated picture, but yeah, I think we see the web reducing its impact as a discovery channel, and other channels like social media probably becoming more prevalent in that space.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to know from SEO experts in the near future around how AI tools like Chat GPT pull information into their outputs. Like, are they pulling from higher domain authority websites, aka higher ranking SEO pages, or are they pulling from we don't have an understanding of how it's pulling that information that it's outputting? And so I think knowing that would be really good, because if it is the former, which is just it's similar to a search engine where it's giving authority to the top search ranking sites, then the basic theory behind it, whether you might have less tracking or not, or less traffic, is you want to build a really strong website with great information that has a lot of backlinks, has domain authority. And so yeah, it'll be really interesting.
These aren't bad things, are they? They're not going to go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And I love this topic around concerns and maybe some rules to follow. I think there's a little uncertainty around how the organic channel is going to perform in the future. There's a good chance it could get smaller. One thing I'm hearing around, we've talked about prompting a lot now, and what you're searching and putting in the chat prompt, but one thing I'm hearing is if you're putting garbage in, expect garbage out. So if you're asking a 5-word question in Chat GPT and expecting a long answer, that's not how it works, right? I think this goes back to our initial conversation around treat Chat GPT and other AI prompts like it's an agency or an employee, and give them very thorough directions. And one quick fun tip I learned actually is you can ask Chat GPT, how can I make this prompt stronger? If you don't know, is you can ask that 5-word question and they'll give you probably an answer you don't like and say, hey, how can I make my initial prompt stronger? And I thought that was a really good tip because you can actually ask AI how to make the prompt stronger. And they'll probably get back to you and say, can you tell me more about the audience? Can you tell me how long you want the article? Can you tell me what industry? Or, I'm not sure. I'm just giving examples, but that was a great tip if you're really unsure of where to start.
That's
a great I think we've already covered this. Isn't it?
I've written it down.
And I love it. Yeah. There's actually, I have a great resource. This guy, Moritz Kremp, shared on Twitter 22 ChatGPT prompts that will make your life much easier. And although I know he's highly contested right now, Elon Musk even replied on the Twitter thread and said, these are some amazing suggestions. Thank you. So Elon's
that's him authenticated then, isn't it? He's made now in his career.
Exactly. So it's got almost a million views, just shy of 1 million views. I'll share the link to this in the recording notes as well, because I think some of these prompts are really legendary. And the first one is the first suggestion out of the 22 is asking ChatGPT, how can I make my prompt stronger? So I thought that was very powerful. Yeah. Anything else you're seeing, like rules, things to be worried about that you're seeing from yourself or your customers?
I mean, on the hacks angle, one of the best ones I discovered was telling it what it was getting wrong. We see so many examples of prompts that it doesn't meet your expectations, and the default human response to a machine is go, oh, I'm going to get annoyed now and walk away from it. Got to tell it what it's getting wrong. It will never learn. And I've got threads when I'm working through it on certain topics, and I've told it back and forth how to get better at certain things, and lo and behold, eventually you get there because you're helping it understand. There's all kinds of things you can do. You've got to try and treat it as much like a human as possible. I know that sounds really backwards almost, but if you're not happy with the result, tell it why it went wrong. Equally, you can, if you need it to help make a choice for you, maybe it's giving you like 5 different synopses or headlines, you can say, well, which one do you think's the best? And then tell it what the definition of the best is, and it will take your criteria and work it out for you. So it depends how much involvement you want to outsource to it. But yeah, it's all kinds of creative ways. I've got a cheat sheet on ChatGPT on my desktop, or again, like you, I'll include it in the show notes, because you've got these mega creators on LinkedIn now who are suddenly really clued up on this stuff. But last month there was something different. But they've got loads of really great things you can just pick up for absolutely free and just try it yourself.
Love it. Yeah. And this is probably very, very, very basic, but our thing is definitely proofread everything. I think I mentioned earlier before I had asked for a list of contacts that I think would be good for this podcast show. And so I tried ChatGPT with it and literally gave me a name tied to the wrong institution. Like it would say Kyle Campbell, let's say, like Harvard University professor or something, right?
Maybe
like
one day.
They would suggest, they would suggest the right person, like they were a legit person, but for some reason the company they work for, their title was always wrong, like 50% of the time. So make sure you proofread everything, like, whether that's you're trying to export a list or it's a blog post, like it should really just be your first pass, and you should read through everything and treat it really as an infant that really needs a lot of guiding. And I think you can avoid a lot of mistakes and errors. And if there's any sensitive information, don't put it in ChatGPT. I think Samsung got a big red flag. Yeah. So, make sure you're not searching any sensitive information at all. So, be careful that you still don't know where any of this information is getting logged and might spit back out to some other user. So definitely recommend that as well.
I mean, there's a couple of bits I've got. And again, it's more caution than, because I don't want people to be discouraged. You need to play with this stuff to get good at it. Hallucinations are quite frequent in ChatGPT. I make stuff up. I did a show like this recently, and I wanted to have the transcript analysed so I could summarise it. And I asked ChatGPT to do it, and it goes, here's your summary and here's some of the kind of pull out quotes. Not one of those quotes was accurate. And the sentiment was the same, but the quote was not in the transcript. So check it. We're not at the point yet where you can just very simply outsource it and trust it to do the work. The other thing was, that's gone out of my head now, hallucinations and, copyright as well. There was a case in the US recently where someone couldn't copyright a graphic novel because the images in it were created by Midjourney. And the rationale for not being able to copyright them, it wasn't because they were generated by AI. It was because the human involved, like I'm talking about, we're separate species or something, didn't do enough creative input on those images, i.e. edit them afterwards to make them their own. So be careful with this, because if you're using it in your job and you create an amazing image, it might not be protected by your brand's copyright. Okay. So yeah, that's one thing you need to just be careful with, because there's no hard and fast rules for this stuff yet. So use it for ideation and concepts, but the final piece, I'd be quite cautious at this point.
Yeah, I love that point. Yeah, and AI generated images, video, media, definitely want to make sure that it's copyrighted. That's a great point, especially if you're putting it out from the institution, which has very strict brand guidelines in most cases. So that's a great point.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I heard that I really also enjoyed is when you have someone on your team that just has a creative eye, and it helps make the brand and everything that your department or team or individual puts out what it actually is. It's the identity, it's the soul. If you have someone on your team that is that person, don't cut them out of the process, because there's no way that any AI tool is going to do a better job than what they're doing. Right. No. And so I think a good example of this, Kyle, is like, you can't replace what you're doing with your newsletter and your daily post with an AI, right? No. That authenticity would be lost in the snap of my finger. And so, yeah, like if you have anyone in your team who's just got an eye for creating student success videos that do really well on TikTok, and she does all her own copywriting and content, don't try and force these tools on that person, because don't take away what's working, and don't take away anything that has authenticity and soul. And I really believed in this, because that's just something that is invaluable, and you can't replace that with AI at this moment.
It's an interesting argument, isn't it? I mean, if you follow the chart through to its conclusion, eventually AI will be powerful enough to do what I do.
Right.
But the AI in that content creation won't give you the audience that I've built up over the years. So I imagine eventually content creation by an AI will match that of a human. I know the day will come, but hopefully by then my audience will be big enough and trust me enough to keep engagement with the content I produce, because it's produced by me and my perspective. So
right.
I think when we do this with our faculty members as well, and we're building up thought leaders, remember, it's not the content that's valuable, it's the audience that these people attract. So the content helps you get there, and good content will help you grow an audience quicker. But ultimately it's the individual and the brand that has the people interested in what it says, or they say. So yeah, I think the value is in the audience rather than the content in the future. And that's a very different way to think about marketing and how we build out content and content programs. But yeah, the day will come when these things can produce wonderfully artisanal and very personal content, but it's utterly produced by a machine. I'm quite excited for it, but at the same time, it's a massive shift that I thought wouldn't happen for like 30 years. But here we are, we're less than a year in from the dawn of Chat GPT, and we're already talking about general intelligence and Chat GPT 5 maybe dropping by the end of the year and what that looks like. So fun times to be in marketing. For me, this is the first time I've lived through a major shift in marketing as a professional. I enjoyed the iPhone as a consumer, but I was still like a student then, so I wasn't really in the workforce. So this is my first big technological shift. It's very exciting.
Love it. Yes. And I wanted to lastly cover a little bit around, I know we've been really focusing on Chat GPT and text prompts. We talked a little bit about AI generative images, but also thought it was really valuable when I was listening to other people around, like, what other AI tools are out there. It's because it's not just Chat GPT, right? And so just trying to open the window and widen the horizon of potential for higher ed marketers on what tools you can be using. And so I have a list of a few. I won't go into too much detail here, but aside from Chat GPT and maybe AI generative tools like Midjourney that spit out more the photo kind of pictures, which I think in higher ed would probably more for, I just don't see them being used quite quickly yet, just because they're not copyrighted and they're a little more like for fun, I would say, in my opinion. But
or
there's a couple other
art
tools,
or something like that.
Right. It's getting better though. It's scary. If you look at like 1 year ago, it's like,
I know, I've seen the comparisons. Yeah, it's
and then
frightening.
Now it looks like
incredible.
a 4D photography. But yeah, getting off the rails here. But there's also a lot of other tools. A really cool one that I found recently was called Video with VIDYO, video.ai. And that actually helps split your long form videos into smaller clips.
Nice.
So if you're really strapped for, like, let's say you film a student interview and you want to use it for marketing, right? Or maybe to highlight a student or department, you can start using AI tools to help you clip up those videos. And that saves so much time. If anyone's ever done any video editing work, it is a time consumer.
Yeah.
And so there's tools coming out to make the video processing of it easier. It's not perfect, right? It's still getting worked on, but video editors, there's opportunity with AI tools as well to make your workflow easier so that one person can create 20 micro clips in a matter of a few minutes when that took days before in the past. Another cool one is a Runway, and again, related to video.
Incredible.
Runway helps.
Application.
Yeah. So what this basically does is, we were talking earlier about text to prompt, right? Like you can use a text to ask things to do stuff like, hey, can you please send t-shirts to everyone who attended orientation week or something, right? Similar to that, this is a text prompt for video editing. So you can tell a video editor, hey, the background on this video is a little too dark. Can you brighten it up? Instead of having to learn Adobe Premiere, right? And to learn, okay, how do I like separate out the background and then line it up? This tool will help you do that. So for people who, are not as good at video editing, or let's say your video editor's out, or they just went to a new job and you need to still make videos for your institution, you can use tools like Runway to help edit your videos just via text to prompt and not having to actually learn the software. And so I thought that was very, very powerful as well. And then lastly, the last one is Microsoft Designer. It's an AI canvas to help you create marketing materials, and you can add like branded logos and stuff. So let's say your campus has a lot of events and you need to create really quick banners. Sure, there's Canva and these tools that already make it easier, but this is just another thing that makes it even faster, where you can text to prompt to make like, hey, can you make a banner around a jazz fest coming up on September 9th? It starts at 9:30 a.m. Boom. Puts you out an image for you. Can you please add the company logo? And it's specifically designed for creating ads. So it's good at adding logos in and such to apply to brand guidelines. So I thought those three were really cool. And they kind of opened my box on like, hey, it's not just ChatGPT tools. Creative teams, which are often the most overloaded, can maybe get some relief with these tools.
Yeah, you've given some good ones there, so I'll probably give 3 examples myself, but there's a couple that stick out to me. And, as a podcaster, Descript is just an incredible app. So normally when you're editing podcasts, you've got the timeline and it's really hard to work out where you need to cut certain things. Well, with Descript, your transcripts, your editing timeline is literally the words that have been spoken, the transcript itself. And if you cut out words, you edit down the podcast. And there's a button, a single operation that can just delete every filler word in an instant. So all those ums and ers that you're always cutting out, you can get rid of those. But the most amazing one, it has to be when you mess up a line or a sentence, you can actually replace your voice with an AI version of your voice with the thing you meant to say. And because it's in context of actual dialogue, you can't tell the difference when you play it back. So it's a little example of AI, right? It's not as dramatic as like Chat GPT, but I think sometimes the best AI is that what is invisible, right? It just fits in those gaps, and it makes this good creative production, but it's helped you get there 10 times quicker. The other one, and I think that a lot of people listening to this will relate to, is what Microsoft's doing with Copilot. And Copilot is the Microsoft Office Suite AI. So with Copilot, if you've got the latest version of the Microsoft apps, you can literally go into PowerPoint, drop a Word doc in, just a massive text file, and it will create a PowerPoint presentation within 5 seconds. A beautiful looking PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. All of these real basic functions that we've had to spend hours on in the past. If you've got a horrible Word doc, you can turn it into this very visual document. You can type in how you want to change things, and it will do it in front. It adds animation and all that sort of stuff. Even does it with Excel. So if you can't do something in Excel, usually I used to walk down the corridor and ask an expert to help me with these sort of things. You can actually tell Excel what you want to do, and it will do everything for you. Formulas, pivot tables, whatever you need it to do via the AI. And, that for me is how these technologies enter into day-to-day use. That's not to say ChatGPT isn't used day-to-day. It's got something ridiculous, like I think it's 1.2 billion users now. But, Microsoft Suite actually having these tools embedded as standard, that's how it becomes the norm. I just seen that, and I just think it's incredible what Microsoft's done there. These are real basic operations, but things that just make people's lives a lot easier.
Wow. Okay. The slide deck creation is powerful. I run webinars too, and it's so funny because the format of a podcast that's video recorded like we're doing right now and a webinar are so similar. But because it's called a webinar, you have to find the host, create the slides, come up with all the speaking points.
Yeah.
It's a little less conversational. It's more educational, right? And so the amount of effort it takes to create a webinar or set up a webinar is, I would say, like 4, 5, 6x, right? Because there's also promotion of the event, which takes a huge load of time. And to just save a little time on the slide deck part, which is usually the hardest part for me, that's massive.
Well, that's yours now. You can do anything you want with that information. If you've got PowerPoint, knock yourself out. You go for it. You've got that time back in your life.
Dang, that's awesome. Google, when are you coming out with this? Because our tech stack is with Google, unfortunately.
Well, maybe you should move to Microsoft. Well, I'm only with Microsoft because I look after university clients, and if you don't use the Microsoft Suite, it's very hard to connect with people, right? So, but yeah, it's PowerPoint's way more effective now than it used to be. I'm actually thinking of switching I use Pitch, so but yeah, now PowerPoint can do that. I'm very interested.
I love it. Oh man, this has been such a fun conversation. I feel like we could keep going, but we'll make it a little more digestible, keep it under the hour mark, and
cool.
Maybe we can record episode 3 in 6 months when the whole world of AI has already changed again.
Yeah, when OpenAI is no longer relevant and it's something else. Yeah, can't wait.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining as a guest again, Kyle. Where can some of our listeners reach out to you? And please tell them about your amazing newsletter. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the best place to connect with me is educationmarketer.co.uk. The first CTA you'll see there is sign up to the newsletter. I send it out every couple of weeks, and it's a concise digest of what matters to education marketers. So there's a range of higher ed news, there's what's going on in digital content and media, and there's always like a good section there about what universities are doing with their marketing. So if you want to save yourself time on personal development and you can't be bothered to find all your information from different sources, it's a good one-stop shop if you just want a very quick hits of information. That and LinkedIn, obviously. I'm all over that.
Amazing. And obviously, if a quick message from our sponsors, if your school needs an updated interactive map virtual tour, or centralized events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com as well. We'd love to hear about your problems, pain points, and how we can help solve them. Thanks so much, Kyle. We'll talk soon.
Have fun. See you soon.
Bye-bye.